when you're building a carburetor is setting the correct height for the float. Very important. It needs to be 3/8 of an inch. Alright, to accomplish this, make sure you've got a float that doesn't leak, number one. Boil up some water, get a pair of needle nose pliers or a pair of forceps, dip the float into the boiling water and watch for any bubbles that may be rising from it. If you get air bubbles rising from it, then the float is no good and you'll need to replace it. They're out there on the market, and if you need one, I've got them. Alright, tools necessary. Number one, a screwdriver that fits correctly for the needle and seat, which comes in 4 pieces, 5 pieces actually if you count the gasket. Do not lose the little spring or the little pin that goes inside the actual needle. Okay? And then you've got the seat, which comes with a gasket on it usually. Sometimes you have to dig around the kit to find it, but they're there. What I like to do is I'll remove the needle, spring, and pin from the seat. Set them aside. Okay. Next tool you're going to need is going to be something that allows you to measure the 3/8 of an inch. This is the Carter T109-80 special tool for this purpose. You can also use the shank of a new, unused 3/8 inch drill bit to measure that. There's going to be a special way, and we'll talk about that in a minute. 9 times out of 10, the float won't be set correctly when you first get to it. So there are 2 tools to handle that. One is the T109-105 bending tool. The other is a more modern Carter tool, the T109-22-T. This has other purposes with other carburetors, but either one will work for our purpose here. Alright, the first thing we need to do is get the seat put in. Start it by finger. Once you've got it started, use a screwdriver that fits the slots as well as possible. Now this is the first encounter you're going to have with a term called gasoline tight. It needs to be turned to where it is tight enough that gas won't go past the gasket down inside. This having been set, place the needle inside. Now, a lot of people will go ahead and install a gasket now. If you do, understand that the measurement has to be made without the gasket in place. So what I like to do is I'll leave the gasket out until such time as. At this point, you're going to inspect the pin that holds the float. If the pin is grooved, and more often than not the older ones are, you'll need to replace it. These 2 are available on the open market. You have to go to Mike's Carburetor Shop to get them, but I also have them in stock. They're $1.20 a piece. Install the pin in the holes. Set it up as an axle. There you have your first chance to take a measurement. Using your gauge or your drill shank, without the gasket in place, you want to measure. Ideally, let me turn this around so you can see. Ideally, you won't see a gap between the gauge and the float. And you measure at the tip and level, just like this. Alright, as I said earlier, nothing seems to work out quite right the first time. So, you'll need to do some adjusting. At the back, you see the tang right here in the center. That is the only thing you're going to bend. You will not bend the arm, you will not bend the tabs. You will not do anything but bend this. Place the tool thusly, and since it was high, I need to lower it. So in order to lower it, I'm going to lift up on the tab, on the tang here. Now this can be a time-consuming job getting it right. You're going to go up, you're going to go down. You're going to be fighting this thing tooth and nail. You're going to get very exasperated because you'll always be so close one way or the other. But be patient. You'll get there. Alright, after each bend, you're going to take another measurement. Let's see if I got close this time. Well, I'm a little closer. I'm going to have to bend it some more. Alright, so hopefully this will only take one more time to do. Bend it up. Some more. Oh yeah, and while you're at it, inspect the back side of the tang where it contacts the pin in the seat, in the needle. If there's a gouge there, you need to remove that gouge using some fine wet or dry. Buff it out. Alright. Once you've got that taken care of, then go ahead and we'll reinstall the float. And then we'll take another measurement. I'm doing this backwards for your benefit so you can see. Alright, and there you can see. We have exactly what we need. It's barely touching. Now what I like to do is, I'll shake it a little bit. Let the natural fall of the float happen. And then double check again. And as you can see, it's perfect. 3/8 of an inch between. Now you can install your gasket. And then reinstall the float. Okay, hopefully this helps clarify some of the issues that people run into when they go to set their float. Alright, thanks for watching. Scout Pilot. Good morning, y'all. Scout Pilot coming to you from his shop in Chile, North Carolina. I've been asked to explain how to use the Carter T109 177S accelerator pump gauge. Very simply, remembering from my last video that the idle stop screw needs to be backed all the way out to where, when the throttle is fully closed, the screw is not touching the boss. With that having been accomplished and the metering rod removed, go ahead and lengthen by screwing up and then screw it back down to where it's touching. The foot needs to be flat on the bowl cover. When you just get to touch, pull it off, take a reading. In this case, it's just under 49. I know it's hard to see these numbers because they're very small, very shiny. 49 minus 17 for the 17/64 that you're going to need for the throw brings you down to 32. So we rotate down to 32. In this case, just a shade under 32. Open the throttle completely. Place the gauge flat on the bowl cover again. And there we go. The accelerator pump throw is set correctly at 17/64. Had it not been, again, you would have to remove the choke throttle arm and bend it at this point using either the tool, special tool for it, or a small vise. You have to get the throw accurate. You can be plus or minus 1/64th, but there you go. Alrighty? And then you can just put everything back together again. Insert your gauge for the metering rod and take your measurement for that. Alrighty. And there you have it, quite simply. I hope this answers your questions. Thank you.